After 8 years of therapeutic wandering, my son's developmental trajectory has finally taken off. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Paul. I'm the father of a 9-year-old boy who was diagnosed with level 1 autism at the age of 3. And I am going to share with you my experience with him and what triggered this major change in his development. I have tried everything that most specialists recommended to me. I trusted my pediatrician, the psychologists I met several of them in specialized centers, in specialized schools, in ABA centers, which is currently the most, let's say, widely recommended method for helping a child by working on their symptoms to try to teach them, let's say, to give them the right learning experiences. Specifically behavioral, with rewards by ignoring bad behaviors and rewarding good behaviors, to put it very simply. Working, communicating one-on-one with an educator and trying to do this as much as possible. That's what was offered to me as the best option today after 7 years. That's what I followed. I hired a full-time psychologist who took care of my son, who went to school with him, who worked with him, who tried to work on my son's learning, and the results were extremely poor. I was extremely disappointed because I spent a lot of time on the subject. I invested a lot of money. Money is very secondary, but of course I also invested a lot of hope in this matter, hoping to be able to greatly improve my son. I paid speech therapists, I paid psychologists, I paid autism specialists. I put my son in specialized autism schools with people who are experienced, who supposedly use the best improvement techniques, etc. The results were 0, terrible. Very poor. Some children respond better. With hundreds, thousands of hours of work, you might see improvements of just a few percent. But let's be honest. And I really invite you to discuss this. Not with the centers that are selling you those hours, because they have a conflict of interest. When you ask them the question, they want to sell you hours. Obviously, they will have a hard time being completely honest. But a child who is considered autistic remains autistic. They remain autistic in their behavior, in their stereotypies, in their restricted interests. We can improve things a little, we can compensate a little, at least that's what they tell you. That's what they tell you. But all of that is false. It's false. Autism, what we call the autism spectrum, because it's considered to be very broad, is a very convenient catch-all for all these specialists. Because from the moment they notice a few symptoms, usually it takes them 10 or 15 minutes, they see it right away. He doesn't communicate, he has social withdrawal, he has restricted interests, that's it. He's autistic. You should know that doing this is a scientific error. That's probably how the people who diagnosed your child did it. You should know that this goes against the scientific literature. The scientific literature, I encourage you to look at the child's past, their history. Is this a traumatized child? Has he experienced emotional neglect? There is a lot of literature on so-called false autistics, Romanian orphanages where the children were actually traumatized, all of whom displayed autistic behaviors and would all have been diagnosed as autistic, but in reality, they absolutely were not. And most autism specialists were not aware of this. When I met them, my son experienced major emotional deprivation from ages 0 to 3. He had a phenotype that matched autism perfectly. Restricted interests, stereotyped behaviors, social withdrawal, no language or very little language, averted gaze, and so on. The whole range that you probably know about. 3 or 4 months ago, I started neuromodulation based on an extremely precise electroencephalogram. And I completely changed my child's trajectory, who began to make progress. But he didn't progress gradually, he made a complete breakthrough. That means that after the first stimulation session, I saw a look in him that I had never seen before. He looked me in the eyes for a few seconds. He was much calmer, much more composed. I was shocked and immediately felt that I had found something exceptional. After a week, when I saw that I could play music at 100 decibels in the house, that is as loud as in a nightclub, and they didn't react the way most autistic children do, that they didn't have auditory hypersensitivity, that's when I realized I had really achieved something. And now for the past 3 months, we've seen an explosion. It's a metaphor. And we've had a very significant improvement. Cognitively, the speed of information processing is on a completely different level. We have a child who is able to sit at the table for hours as if he were taking university exams. He's 9 years old and extremely focused. No more crying, no more strange crying for no reason, no more crying where we don't know why he's crying, no more odd laughter. It's all gone. That's over now. The child is regulated. He's focused. The emotional bond has returned. He comes to see me. He gives hugs. He was diagnosed as autistic. I have the documents. I will share them with you. He no longer has restricted interests. That's over. Before, he would take a slate and write the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G. He would write numbers 1, 2, 3 in a row. That too is an autistic symptom. Lining things up or writing letters, that's a form of self-stimulation. Those are restricted interests, and that's disappeared. Today, he writes words. He writes words that have meaning that he has learned, but that's over now. He no longer has any he no longer has any restricted interests. 3 months of neuromodulation. I did years of ABA, nothing, no results. 3 months of neuromodulation. What happened? We restored certain synchronizations at the brain level, improved connectivity, awakened certain areas of the brain, brought about what we call cortical arousal. That is, he had hypoactive areas that gradually woke up over the course of 3 months of intensive neuromodulation. But that's not all. I combine this with a specialized educator to take advantage of the windows of plasticity that reopen thanks to neuromodulation. The big problem, unfortunately, when you have an autistic child is that the older they get, the less plastic their brain becomes. And neuromodulation reopens this plasticity that had gradually closed off. A child has an extremely plastic brain from 0 to 3 years old. This plasticity is already reduced by the age of 7 or 8, 9 years old, and then it closes off after 13 or 14. The brain remains plastic throughout life, but much less so than in early childhood. And what is exceptional about neuromodulation is that it reopens this plasticity, allowing your child's brain to integrate learning much more quickly. And that changes everything. Not only will we address the neurophysiological problem at its source, but we will also enable your child's brain to learn much faster. So if you will, there is a synergy from a functional point of view, but there is also a synergy with the educator. And today I have results that are truly exceptional. I will share all of this from a clinical perspective with you. I will also share documentation on the subject, and in the coming months and weeks, I will share with you other videos about Alexandre's progress to help you as much as possible with your autistic child. By the way, if you're interested in staying informed, I invite you to subscribe to this channel to receive the next updates that I will send you. There you go. I hope this video will give you hope again. I hope my experience will restore your hope, and I wish your child the best possible improvement.